what we've seen is because of inflation, the industry has really slowed down. We have a massive housing shortage here, here in the United States. And so every single state needs to start building, but it's just not possible. We don't have enough developers developing what we need. And so every state has some sort of shortage. And when we think of like the housing shortage that we have,
Hey, what's going on? This is another conversation of Let's Talk Tourism. And now I have the pleasure of speaking with Carrillo. George Carrillo. He is part of the Latino community and also a lot of the construction industry. He has a very long list of projects and partnerships and collaborations that he is a part of and has been a part of in the private sector and also in government. So it's going to be an interesting conversation how his expertise can also be implemented or visualized with tourism. And it's a pleasure, George, for having you in this conversation, man. And thank you, man. Thank you again for accepting the invitation.
yeah, no problem. Happy to be here with you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit of in 1 minute or less, a little bit of what you have been doing and how is it that you are participating in the construction industry, please?
Yeah, so with construction, I run a national organization. It's a trade organization. And what we try to do is we try to help business owners and also people in construction to understand what does it take to be in the business, how to be successful, how to go from an unskilled to a skilled professional to being a manager into being a business owner and really gaining all that wealth that is in construction. Currently, right now, that doesn't really exist too much in the Hispanic community here in the United States, simply because a lot of the wealth is held by other larger organizations, and we're the workforce, but yet we don't hold all the wealth.
Yeah, no, that's a really very important industry, especially now with this massive growth that Oregon is facing right now, right? So I think that you're doing an amazing contribution, especially to the Latino community that is growing as well. So tell me a little bit of what you've noticed in these, let's say, 5 years regarding construction. Obviously, it has grown, but how is the state, or I don't know, what's the level that you actually seek under or foresee? How is it that you notice the changes, the dynamics of construction, infrastructure, things of that nature, and how the community can keep growing at a rate that is, you can say, sustainable, right? And it
Yeah.
helps maintain the city at a constant level. What is your take on that?
So I think I look at things nationwide, and nationwide, the construction industry has consistently been pretty strong. Even through COVID, it was very strong because it was outdoors, projects still needed to get completed. But what we've seen is because of inflation, the industry has really slowed down. We have a massive housing shortage here, here in the United States. And so every single state needs to start building, but it's just not possible. We don't have enough developers developing what we need. And so every state has some sort of shortage. And when we think of like the housing shortage that we have, it's contributed by different things. Like some of it is regulation from the federal government to the local banks. Some of it is permitting and processes from local government agencies. And so that bottleneck effect is really slowing the industry when we think just about housing. Now, when we think about infrastructure, that's another industry where that's that hard labor, building roads. We need bridges to be replaced. We have a crumbling infrastructure in the United States, but also too, we need to create more energy in the United States. And this is where people just don't have a lot of conversation around. And that's because a lot of these data centers, they pull a lot of energy. I mean, think about it, if you keep your computer on all night, it gets really, really hot. And now with AI and just the technology advancements that we have, there is a lot of energy that needs to be produced that our current system can't handle. The power grid can't handle it. So, there's Hispanics in what's in hydrogen. and they're trying to build facilities to be able to supplement that energy that we need. But these are like $1 trillion projects. They're massive, right? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of employees, trillions of dollars of money coming from the federal government. And as Hispanics, we have that ability, even if we don't know about hydrogen, we know how to build, right? We know how to build the facilities, we know how to build buildings and bridges and roads, everything that that infrastructure needs. And so the need is really high. We're seeing a little bit of a slowdown period, but now we're going to start seeing it ramp up because the elections are over, and now the country is going to try to get itself back in a position where we're going to be building, building, building because we need to.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you talked about energy. I think that's one of the topics that is going to be important in this coming years because even though renewables is getting bigger, it might not be at the same capacity that you need to actually build whatever is it that you need, right? Especially now with that digital shift, which is AI and things of that nature. It consumes a lot of energy. So I think right now it's a very important that you mentioned how even the Hispanic community is participating in building those facilities, right? Those
Right.
plants and things of that nature. So um, I wanted to ask, how do you think that the growth has been affected, or is it contributed to tourism? Because I know tourism in Oregon is plenty.
Mhm.
From the west side with the Willamette Valley to all the way to the east side to the Miru National Park, all of that region. What do you think that tourism and construction have like similarities, right? Or how can they synergize?
Yeah, well, I think, when we think about Portland, well, just Oregon in general, Oregon has these very beautiful natural locations, and people from all over the place come to Oregon to experience those, and that's wonderful. But it doesn't drive the amount of tourism that we need in Oregon. Now, when we put construction and tourism together, we can do some pretty amazing things that will drive people to come here. Right? We need to be able to build um, better resorts, bringing people my vision is like the hot springs, gorgeous, right? People love coming to the hot springs, but is there really a resort, an all-inclusive resort, or something that's big, family friendly, that's going to bring people from Idaho and Arizona and California to come here to be a part of this wonderful experience? So tying in that construction to what we currently have as some of our natural resources, I think is something that tourism needs to sort of start investing into. But also too, Oregon has some pretty extreme weather patterns. So in Portland, it rains most of the year. We all know that. We need more attractions to keep us entertained and for other people from other states to come in. I'll give you an example. I went to Vegas and I went to the HyperX Stadium there. It was awesome, right? It's all about video games. My son loved it. It's a great business model, and it's something that would prosper really well in here, in Portland, because it rains a lot. It would bring a lot more tourism, tournaments, all these different things will bring in tourists, and especially a younger population. That's something that I think needs to look at, but we need a building to build it. There comes the construction aspect of it, bringing in and really building something very futuristic that's going to attract all those gamers to come to Portland. So it's things like that that I think that we can still use our natural resources, but also use our urban cities to be able to attract, that tourism that we desperately need here.
Yeah, that's a really good question because I wanted to ask you, what do you think comes first, the demand of tourism or the supply of construction, or what's like the chicken and the egg? Is
Yeah.
is the construction going to bring more tourism, or is it Travel Oregon's, for example, as a DMO? Is it Travel Oregon's obligation to bring more tourists so that more development can happen, or what do you think comes first?
So I think it's kind of back to that mentality. If you build it, they will come. So you got to build it and people are going to want to come. And I think that's the best part, I think, probably about Oregon that it needs to tap into is that building and that designing of some really fantastic facilities. Because if the outside matches the inside, people are going to come. Simply either just to take a picture of it from the outside or because they also want to go inside and be like, wow, this is revolutionary. And that's what takes people from one city to another is that they want to go see the beauty of the landscape, but then they also want to be able to participate in whatever that event is.
Yeah, it's always going to be like a balance between too much building and not enough landscape, natural. Try to keep that balance between too much development and also keeping the natural areas the scenery basically, right? With
Yeah,
natural
yeah.
scenery. So having another question towards construction now, what do you think is the future of construction, let's say in 5 to 10 years in Oregon,
You
from your expertise? What do you think is where is it going towards?
Yeah, so I think in the next 5 to 10 years, it's two things. It's going to be building housing. We have a deficit of like 140,000 homes that we have to build. And on average, we can build maybe about 20,000 a year. So we have a huge gap to fill. And then the other one is going to be in infrastructure. We have the replacement of the I-5 bridge that's going to be replaced. We have bridges like the Burnside Bridge is going to get replaced. And we have other, projects like in Southern Oregon, where I think I know that there's talks of like windmills and hydrogen plants being developed. And so those, I think, are the future. And I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars being invested in those areas. So there is a lot of money that is headed our way for the next 10 years.
And regarding that, how is it that the Hispanic community or the Latino community, how is it going to contribute, or what do you think is necessary for them to contribute even more than what they're already doing?
So I think one is that they have to start getting ready to be able to understand how can I be a successful business owner so that way I have the opportunity to get an opportunity to grow my business. They need to learn how to do that because we have the workforce, and even though the workforce we still have a shortage, we have about 18% shortage in workforce. We need to start educating our children on how do I get into the trades. How do I get into learning how to be an architect? How do I learn to becoming an engineer? Those are all things that are a lot of people that are currently in college can participate in. And then also other people that are currently in the trades right now that say, you know what, I want to move up. I want to be my own business owner. They need to really get ready and scale up because when these opportunities come, they may not qualify because they're just not big enough. They don't have the financials to support, a $10 million project. And this is where you see generational wealth can change. It can totally change in the next 10 years. And I hope for people that they understand, you know, Hispanics in this country play a critical role. And if you don't believe me, we just elected the next president that's coming in. Whether we like it or not, we put him in office. So we have to start understanding we have value and we need to start exercising that value because we're the ones that create that all this infrastructure, that what we see in America today, we built it and we're going to continue to build it.
And I think it's really important that you mentioned that we need to expand our capability, right? Instead of just doing the trades, try to take the risk, obviously, yeah, because if it's very new, try to obviously get around with experts, but experiment with actual development zones and
Yeah.
things like that. I think that's very, very, very good answer. I 100% agree with you, my friend. But I wanted to. I know you want to make this really interesting and really quick. But what do you recommend, or what do you want to say to that person that is in your role, maybe in another state, maybe in another country, that has the responsibility of focusing on construction? And what advice would you give them to like take? from your experience? What's one tip of advice?
Yeah, one is continue to learn. This is an industry that's constantly evolving, and we have to be willing to continue our education. We also have to be willing to take risk and, be that business owner, develop a relationship and a network that's going to support you because you can do it. There's not one Hispanic here in the state of Oregon or in the United States that cannot be a successful business owner. I've seen people start off with nothing and become multimillionaires in this industry. And it's not because of luck, it's because they were bold enough to take that step. They know how to do the trade. They grew up doing it. They know how to build, that cabinet, and it's great, but it takes other skills to be a successful business owner. And the ones that have been successful have put in the time to learn how to be successful. And then the other one is, as Hispanics, we have to really stop working against each other. We have to uplift each other and work together in unison to understand that we are fighting over crumbs when there's this massive financial pie out there. And if we work together, we actually unlock all those resources. And what I mean by that is, it's pretty typical to see in this industry. You see someone say, "Hey, come paint my house." And they say, "Sure." They walk in and they say, "Okay, I'll paint your house for $500. And then somebody else comes in and they look at the house and they say, "No, I'm going to charge you $3,000. Well, who's the person going to go with? They're going to go with the person that gave them the lowest price. But how can somebody paint your house for that cheap? And that's because they didn't do any measurements. They don't really know. They're just basing it off of an assumption, and they're trying to be the lowest price possible. And that's not good because you don't make any money. You're just in a state of survival. And there's a reason why that house costs $3,000. So don't cut yourself short, and don't cut your competition short, which is typically another Hispanic, because there's plenty of houses that need to get painted. There's plenty of industrial places that need to get painted. There's plenty of work out there for everybody. We don't even have enough people to do the work right now. So don't feel that you have to short yourself because it's only hurting everybody as a whole.
Yeah, 100%, my friend. Yeah, price sometimes isn't the same as value, my friend, and that is very true. That even ourselves, we want to outcompete each other with
Mhm.
bidding, outbid each other. I've heard several cases of that too here in Central Oregon, and it's just a downward spiral, no, to the cheapest price, and then the quality is what gets affected, and then we're stained by that, So that's very complex and obviously very in depth, and hopefully we can have another conversation more in depth. Maybe I gotta go to your city or to your town, have a coffee, talk about it more
Yeah,
in like an hour,
absolutely.
maybe it's a very first encounter, which hopefully isn't the last. But I really appreciate your time, my friend. I wanted to leave the community who wants to reach out to you. How can they get to contact you? Email, social media, maybe a website you manage, or any other project that you have. Now is a really good time, my friend.
Yeah, sure. So people can contact me through my website, through the website for the Hispanic National Construction Council. So the website is really simple. It's hncc.us. You'll be able to see the work that we do and also have the opportunity to contact me. But people can always contact me at george@hncc.us.
Perfect. And then I'll add the links next to your image, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, perfect.
And then people can contact you there. So George, my friend, I appreciate your time, and it was a very interesting, quick, dynamic conversation, like construction, right? As well, it's very fast.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to have on timing, right? Timing is everything. So thank you guys as well. Thank you for watching this video of Let's Talk Tourism, and I'll see you in the next conversation. Till then.